Welcome to the Virginia Cannabis Connection. I'm your guy on the couch, Joe Parsons. The purpose of this channel is to bring you the latest information and important updates to the Commonwealth. I also want to raise awareness and bring education of the stigma that is in the cannabis community. We can all help make the Commonwealth and beyond a great place to be a cannabis patient or a responsible adult use user. Please help me by giving this a share, a like, and please subscribe to help make this channel grow. Now, on to the news. The best way to start the new year is by a recap of what happened, or in some cases, what didn't happen last year. So here's your 2023 recap. Recreational cannabis sales did not begin in January as promised. They were supposed to begin on January 1st. However, there has been further delays this past year. The rec use market was passed into law July of 2021. Now 3 years have passed and there is no structured system yet in place. The latest bill was set to pass before the governor's desk on January 10th, but as far back as July, the governor has stated that he has little to no interest in the recreational cannabis sales. The good news is that the control over the medical market in Virginia has been moved from the Virginia Board of Pharmacy to the newly founded Virginia Cannabis Control Authority. The department head is Jeremy Priest. He has stated that within a few days, the VCCA will make sure the medical marijuana program is running smoothly. He's also said that he wanted to ensure that patients will have access to safe, regulated products. He will be administrating the regulations, enforcing the regulations in the medical cannabis program on medical cannabis providers. He sounds very ambitious, but just how serious these claims are is yet to be seen. Under the current rules, Virginia residents can still legally possess 1 ounce for personal recreational use and grow up to 4 plants for personal use. Strict regulations on growing in Virginia still make it a little difficult. Medical patients can purchase up to 4 ounces within a 30-day span. It sounds like a lot, but that can actually be less than a lot of patients' prescriptions actually are. These limits need to be addressed by the newly founded VCCA. Governor Glenn Youngkin, while he hasn't attempted to repeal the 2021 Cannabis Control Act, passed under then-Governor Ralph Northam, he has made a roadblock for further progress for the recreational use market in Virginia. It has also been blocked twice by the Virginia House, once in 2022 and once again last year in 2023. According to sources, we should not expect any further help from the governor during the rest of his administration. Now, on to some national news. The DEA has told Congress that it has, quote, final authority on marijuana, regardless of the health agency's Schedule 3 recommendation. So in a nutshell, this means the DEA could overturn any recommendation and ultimately keep cannabis as a Scheduled 1 drug and further hinder any progress to declassify. Now that leads to the question of the week. Is Schedule 3 actually good for the future of cannabis reform, or is it a step backwards for the industry in both the medical and recreational markets? Now, for me, only time will tell as 2024 moves forward. President Biden has been very vocal and active on easing restrictions for both the adult use and the recreational cannabis markets. That's all for the news, except I would like to congratulate Ohio for being the 24th state to approve an adult use program. We only have 2 states left, and then the United States will finally have an over 50% majority towards the complete reunification and re-legalization of cannabis. Our voices are being heard, so let's continue our efforts in the coming election year. And now it's time for the hot topic. Stigma. What is it and how exactly does it affect the cannabis industry and the cannabis community? By definition, a stigma is a set of negative and often unfair beliefs that a society or group of people have about something. This relates to the way people perceive cannabis patients and adult use users. People often view cannabis patients in a stereotypical manner and think that all users are essentially bad people with either low ambitions or are less educated. While in many recent years, Many advocates in the medical and entertainment industry have helped to raise awareness to our cause, but we need to do more. While cannabis reform started in 1937 with the Marijuana Tax Act, the stigma was actually started a little earlier with films like 1936 Reefer Madness. It spreaded false information and led to the rise of the negative cannabis movement. After all, the Tax Act started only 1 year after the release of Reefer Madness. By 1970, through years of systematic fear, cannabis was fully outlawed for any purpose under the CSA, or the Controlled Substances Act. It basically ruled that cannabis was as bad as heroin or cocaine. The cannabis plant is one of the most useful and natural health supplements known. And though Big Pharma doesn't want everyone to know how many products that use cannabinoids, I personally think that it has been one of the biggest factors for the politically motivated ban. Since the mid-1990s, advocates, medical professionals, and people like me have been working to re-educate the public to get wise and re-legalize. And now that leads me to this important question. How many times have people looked at you differently once they know that you support cannabis reform and legalization? How many of you, like me, have worked in low-level, low-paying jobs because of the stigma most employers have towards cannabis? How many relationships have you had that ended badly because of the stigma of cannabis? Now that leads to the big question. Are you in or are you out? I have felt trapped in the proverbial closet for most of my adult life. I only experimented a few times with cannabis as a teenager, and frankly, I didn't like it. I know now that the stuff I got a hold to just had cannabinoids that didn't agree with me. But alas, it wasn't until I turned 21 that I gave cannabis a second try. I have an awful case of arthritis that has been affecting me badly since I was in my late teens. Upon doing research, I learned that cannabis was nature's natural anti-inflammatory, with no real negative side effects. It has a few pleasant side effects, if you know what I mean. So for years, I led a double life, always afraid of what people thought, always afraid of how my employer would judge me. I even thought about how my church would look at me. It wasn't until 2020 that I followed my heart and came out of the cannabis closet. At the time, I lived in Maine and had been there for the last 14 years. When I moved there, it had one of the best medical cannabis systems in place. In New England is just a little more progressive when it comes to cannabis, but I still had to deal with stigma. I had to wait tables for 12 years to support my family. Because of this, it was hard for me to purchase a home, but I vowed to stay true to myself no matter the cost. And luckily, I have a very loving and supportive wife. A strong family bond or good relationship helps when coming out, so to speak. So, anyone can be free if they really set their minds to it. In 2020, I started working in the cannabis industry for an amazing company called Theory Wellness. They gave me a great job with the same benefits that any other so-called normal company had. Healthcare, life insurance, even a 401k. Most important, they made me feel human. For the first time since before I chose to become a cannabis advocate. My children were almost grown, so it was easy for me to come out to them. I then came out to my family with no apologies. I even came out to my pastor. I was free, and I felt an inner peace that was absolutely amazing. Sadly, I lost my mother in 2022. I was faced with either selling my mother's home, paying off the balance, and staying in Maine, which was my new home, a place that I truly loved, where I felt free and worked in the best industry ever, the cannabis industry, or returning home to give Virginia another chance. Well, I couldn't imagine anyone else living in my mom's house. And after all, Virginia did legalize in 2021, and it was the first southern state to actually do so. So I had visions, and I had dreams that coming home would be a wonderful thing. I wanted to start my own concentrate business. It would be here in a brand new, fresh new market, and I wanted it to hit before the industry blew up here in Virginia. I had high hopes and ambitions. For years, I was surrounded by like-minded people with similar interest in Maine. I felt human again. I had almost 2 years without the stigma associated with cannabis. So I wanted to make that same impact here in Virginia. But what a surprise I was in for. The cannabis industry is almost non-existent here at this time, years behind what I thought it would be when I first arrived. All the same problems that I had before are still here when I returned. The stigma is very strong here, and I think it's why the industry is 3 years behind. I once again work in a low-level job to provide for my family. I have been turned down for almost every job, even though I have a medical card. People look at me differently here, but I cannot and will not be deterred. I'm still very proud of who I truly am, and I won't go back in the cannabis closet. I want to raise awareness and be the best advocate that I can be and provide comfort to the Commonwealth. And I want to be support to those who feel that there is no support. And that's why I started this channel. I hope to grow this channel with the best news and story for the Commonwealth and beyond. That's my time for today. Be sure to check out my next hot topic, Canna racism. Until then, be sure to spread the word, like, share, and subscribe. That will help make this channel spread the truth to make positive changes to our industry, and most of all, allow cannabis patients and responsible adults to feel like humans. Stay lifted, my friends.